All right. So I'm not sure if you can see the camera as well as just the screen, but decided to just include this just because it's a little bit easier to explain. I'm going to record these instead of just typing it up because I feel like it would be much longer if I was typing it up and it would be quite overwhelming. Meanwhile, this way you can just kind of put it on in the background, or if you've been looking at what I'm writing, you can look at that. But this is essentially going to be, each day I'm going to try to do at least one of these, depending on how much stuff. Maybe on some days we can have a little bit more, but it's trying to walk through the whole bunch of feedback that I got over the past week, and kind of looking at the key takeaways of what I've discussed with Sarah as things that we're like, okay, this is something that maybe we should consider, move forward with, things like that. Uh, it is something that's still very much up for discussions. I do very much want to hear your opinions, so you can put it in like the thread of the Slack or however that allows it to work, because I know Slack can be a little bit annoying sometimes. But let's just kind of jump into it. So the first one, basically for today, is regarding market fit. Now, just to kind of contextualize it, what does this mean? Well, what this kind of a big piece of feedback that we got that I think will has a lot of meaning as far as how we should change our approach to what we're doing right now, and it would have a big effect on how we're fundraising, is what are we actually doing, right? Because right now, if we look at the core of everything we've done, it's the app. That is kind of everything. Or, like the platform, I guess you can say. The platform. Because that platform is then, it's the education, that's the brokerage. That's how, if you look at our pitch, if you look at the deck, if you look at, how we talk about things, when we talk about goals, when we talk about progress, all of that we kind of tie into the impact of the platform. And this is something where I think I've kind of messed up really, with kind of my experience in the previous businesses, where because I was basically doing B2B sales or things like that at its core, it's kind of what it was. The core of what I was doing, the product, was the physical thing, which kind of led to me thinking about it this way, and then that's how we now discuss it, where the platform is kind of the core product. But if you look at what the actual product is, normally that's the solution, right? We're not looking at we're not looking at, oh, there's 100 different workout apps out there, and we're going to make one that's better because of this and this, right? There we can be a little bit more focused on the app, but still the core difference in how you pitch that is the outcome, right? Maybe this workout app, let's just put out a theoretical workout app, right? So maybe this theoretical workout app has all this, all the standard features, but the big bonus, the big pitch of why this workout app should get funding is because it has some automated, automated, kind of predictive, what do you call it, rep adjustments, right? So in this theoretical app, each time you work out, you put in how many reps you did and how you felt at the end of it. And then for your next workout, whenever you're doing the same exercise, it will kind of adjust that. And it's some AI driven, whatever bullshit algorithm. And that's the pitch that you then be, selling to investors, right? There, you're like this algorithm, let me switch to this. Like this algorithm, sure, that's kind of the cool thing that you do differently. But your actual product is not, oh, you have a cool algorithm. The product is, or like the solution that you're offering. I guess that's a better way to call it. The solution you're offering to kind of the problem is people have to, people don't have to think about adjusting the exercise. Don't have to think about adjusting exercises. Now, when we look at it this way, right, that is a problem, right? Like if you work out, whatever, being sure, like when do I switch to a higher weight? How do I adjust my reps? All this. Like if you're new to working out, this is something that people have no clue about. So this is really the problem this workout app would be solving. That's the solution. That's what, if we're going to be, when pitching investors, this is really the kind of core part to pitch them on. And the mistake that I've kind of made, and I guess we've kind of made, whatever I'm going to say, I kind of made because it's a little bit easier for me, uh, is that the big focus has been very much on the app, right? Whenever we talk to anyone, it was very much about the platform, right? We're building the platform where you have the education connected, it sort of the pipeline to the brokerage. And yeah, then they all have, all kinds of other features around it, all that. But that is at its core really what we were, like what we were talking about to investors is, oh, this is the thing we're trying to pitch you on. But the issue there is unless those investors are already super familiar with the market and everything, they're not going to be like, yes, this is exactly what what the market needs. And generally, that's one of the kind of feedbacks that I got a lot was, well, sure, this sounds cool, but why, right? The big focus, and as people always ask why. So what we should really focus on, what's been really pointing out, is instead of focusing on the platform is really kind of what we're delivering, right? That's the main goal. The main goal is the solution. What are we actually solving? And that needs to be kind of the core of the pitch and core of what we do. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying, oh, we're not doing the whole platform. The platform is still how we're solving the problem, but it significantly changes how we can approach things in the short term. So as opposed to going into and being like, this is what we're pitching, this is what we need to build, this is what has all our primary metrics. Now, the primary metrics are things like, let me just do primary metrics would be things like user count, retention numbers, like growth, shit like that. Now, these are all great. Let me switch to a highlighter. Now, these are all great once we have a fully running product, because then we can use those to show, yeah, people are looking after it. But in the stage we're in right now, in that pre-seed stage, this market fit is really how things get measured. So what is kind of the outcome of some of the feedback that we got? And I very much, again, want to repeat, I do want to kind of hear your feedback and thoughts on this, is that as opposed to making kind of the education to brokerage platform the North Star, we need to look at our solution, right? So what are we actually solving? So our solution right now, because we don't have our brokerage license and all of that yet, is solving the education issue, right? When we talk about, when it comes to the actual pitch itself, when we're going through, when we explain the product, the whole first part of that pitch, like in the, like let's say a 30-second pitch, is about the issue of the education, how there isn't a decent solution. So basically what we want to do, what kind of that goal of what we are, and I know this kind of seems repetitive because you're all already know this, but I just want to kind of walk through it in this way. Our kind of main goal as Fair is provide education that just works for finance. Or provide education that lets people get into trading and actually can support them properly, because majority of the current solutions suck, or provide good or whatever, right? We can rephrase this in a million ways, and we have all kinds of different, there's all kinds of different ways to put this, but that's at its core, that's what we're doing right now. Now, then how are we making revenue? Oh, we're making revenue because we have the brokerage. How are we doing this? And all the other shit is kind of secondary, I guess you could say. So to prove that there is market fit, which is really what at that pre-seed stage is the biggest question, right? So at pre-seed, the biggest question is market fit. And we are currently raising our pre-seed round. So, or like that's, the pre-seed is kind of that first money before you have any kind of final product. And since our platform includes the brokerage and the education, we're not going to have our final product until we have our brokerage licenses and everything. So we're currently in the pre-seed stage. So the core question for investors right now is about market fit. That is the kind of North Star. That, and if that is kind of the goal for them, that needs to, oh well, that's the core measure for them. Like, is this a startup worth kind of investing in, or is this, is this something that's proven? Then that means proving market fit needs to be a kind of our goal. And then how do we do that? Well, we can do that with the platform. We can do that through a million different ways, and I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit more how we're gonna how some ideas as far as adjusting this, and there will be some more things down the line over this week that where we can talk about it. But essentially, this is kind of that big difference, right? Reorienting ourselves from looking at the platform as kind of that priority, if this is everything, because to an extent that is kind of what we've been doing, and focusing on proving market fit. Now, what does it mean to prove market fit? All right, because there's basically, it means that there's interest in the market, right? What does that actually mean? How do we do that? Well, typically, you do that by showing some kind of demand, and the way you show demand is you show users. Now, what we can do is we can do it through the platform. We can do it through all kinds of things. With the platform right now, basically, we're going to be doing kind of the next stage after we do some of the finish off kind of the closed alpha that we're doing, well, alpha basically, because there's no real open alpha. But now that we're doing kind of our alpha testing, which is, we have the app on test flight, it's on my phone. Some of you may already have it on your phone. I know Kimberly just saw her on Slack and is trying to sort it out to have test flight set up, and more of you will gradually get access to that as well. But that, that is something that's still kind of being worked on, being developed. And when it comes to startups, and this is kind of a big difference from kind of more of a traditional business, which is why I think I made kind of the mistake, or kind of the incorrect perception of what actually the goal was supposed to be, is with startups, you just do an MVP. Now, MVP in the tech space would be the platform. And that is what I was kind of thinking. But this is very kind of tech specific, because that means you have a demo or like a product you can show. But as a startup, right, for startups, let me just zoom in so it's easier to write. For startups, the MVP is a little bit different. It's just something to use, right? Let me write that in, something to use. Now, to give you an example, right? I have a friend of mine who, for a period of time, wanted to kind of build out a solution in kind of in the women tech space, basically around basically health tech space, around like nutrition, things like that, specifically for women. For like there's a lot. We don't have to get into the specifics of the idea, because she might still pursue it, and she's a little bit more kind of doesn't want to have everyone know about it. She's not as, I guess, transparent in how she's building it at this stage as we are. But if we were talking about the test of her product from the tech perspective, which is kind of what we were doing up until now with the platform, then what she would need to do is have the browser extension and have her app done. Now, that browser extension and app could have the bare minimum of features, but she would actually still need to have that platform done, which is a lot more work compared to what she actually did to test her market fit. Now, literally what she did is she kind of went to a bunch of people and kind of had them go through the kind of quote unquote program, or kind of trial it but not with the platform, but literally where she did the work all manually, instead of having a kind of platform do it automatically. So there, it means, the MVP isn't a technical thing. With startups, an MVP, I guess let me underline this because I noticed this looks a bit weird. With startups, the MVP is basically anything usable that gets you to the solution, right? Something that would get people to have, in our case, something that would get people to get good education that actually is, that they can, okay, I have a better way to phrase this, that they can practically apply, in finance. So let me just rewrite it here. Education, they can practically apply in finance or in their trading and investing. Let's just put it that way. In their trading and investing, right? This is that kind of goal that they're So to test that, we don't necessarily have to do, we don't like the test of this isn't having the entire platform done. We can start testing this kind of earlier, right? When we, for example, when very early on, months and months and months ago, we did those first few sessions just to kind of see how people respond to, some of the education when we're doing it kind of a little bit at scale, and it's not as structured as how I did teach people when it came to trading and investing before. That was basically what an MVP for a startup is. And from talking to a lot of people that have successful startups, and there were also a few VCs and other ones, they very much highlighted the importance of, instead of doing the kind of tech side of an MVP, looking, using the bare minimum of whatever you do to just show that people actually want this solution. And the solution is that having some good education that they can actually practically apply for their trading and investing when they're complete beginners, right? So this is really the kind of big change here, and why I think it will have kind of knock-on effects in how we kind of do certain things. I think it will have knock-on effects in how we might use Discord and a lot of other things. But what this means, just to kind of give you more of a practical sense of it, is, of course, platform. That's our kind of technical product. We're still continuing that. There's no changes as far as that existing. What the changes are is about, what do we do today, right? How do we start proving our market fit today? And how do we get that pre-seed, how do we pitch the pre-seed round as a way of proving? And actually, I just realized my camera is on the other screen, so I'm looking off weirdly. So I look at more in the camera. How do we actually go about pitching the funding that we need to be necessary to prove market fit? And if we're pitching it as a platform to actually build out the entire product, get the brokerage license and all of that, that's to get the technical solution that we're suggesting done. And that is not what an MVP for startups is, right? The minimum viable product would literally be a fucking Zoom call where we teach people, right? That would, at its core, that's the MVP for this product of our startup, where we have to do it in some way where the kind of the applied scenario, so people can actually, that's kind of the core, the kind of the big differential of how we do our education. So try to teach it in a very applied way, so we can show there's clearly big interest in this. We can show that by numbers, by users. We have, getting a ton of user feedback and all of this. And that's kind of a fundamental difference in how we can think and approach this. And I know I am kind of rambling a little bit to some extent, but I really wanted to kind of, highlight. That's a better word. Highlight the kind of difference that this is in the sentiment. And practically, it doesn't mean we're not doing the platform. What it does mean is we can start testing market fit right now, and we can adjust how we pitch our fundraising to be more focused on the market fit. It will mean that we can kind of change how much we're raising and adjust some of these things, but it will allow us to, because our product includes the entirety of the platform, we're going to stay pre-seed for the entirety of testing market fit. And I am going to later on in the week kind of put out another one of these where we are going to also talk about some of the changes as far as fundraising and how this will fit in. But I really want to get started with the market fit because it has so many other knock-on effects. Now, with this change where we're going to kind of focus on just getting some education out there, because we can't give our brokerage services out there. We don't have brokerage licenses. So our only choice is to start with the education to prove market fit. And because we can prove that there is interest from the market in brokerages by what's it called? Trade Republic coming up. Now Trade Republic has its issues and why, and we can then kind of show, okay, well, this is why we're actually better than Trade Republic. But our education is something we can show very directly. We can already start doing that right away. So that's going to be a shift in some of the focus, mainly outside the dev team. I think as far as the kind of work for the dev team, that's going to continue being on the platform. But outside the dev team, so in the way the content is, in the way the marketing is, it's going to be much more towards, okay, let's get something with education down. Let's get some way we can show the user numbers now. Now, user numbers can be a number of people on Discord that are engaging in our sessions or whatever the fuck, right? There's a lot of ways to show this. And I'm going to, again, I know I keep saying this, but I'm going to talk about this more later in the week. But I think to kind of finish off, the big difference is that we can do the education now. And with doing the education now, it is most likely, some of it is going to be more of the podcasts going out. Some of it is going to be start doing more stuff in the Discord. So we literally start teaching in the Discord. Like just to a contextual example, I have, I know a few people who, so these are two different startups, I think, or is there a third one? Okay, so two that pop into my head where literally they raised their entire funding, like millions of dollars in funding, purely based off having a bunch of people on Discord to show, oh, there's a community that's interested in this. And you have a lot of startups which have a product or something that can show, like if you're B2B, they can go out and be like, hey, legal firms, are you interested in this? And can we do this for you? But with us right now, again, we're quite similar to them, even though our target market and a lot of this is very different, is that what they were, the end goal of what they were doing was a platform. It was a platform for startup founders, which did a bunch of things. But at the start of it, they could do a similar kind of test of their solution, which is exactly what we have here, by just building a community of people who are interested in that, who can give feedback on what they want, who can already participate in some parts of, for us, the education and things like that. So what we are going to do, or more of a what I'm thinking we should do, and I want your feedback on as the kind of core outcome of this market fit focus shift from focusing just on from thinking of like the main thing we're doing being, sorry, fucking microphone, from the main focus of what we're doing being the platform, to having the main focus be just market fit, getting that solution out there in any way. And that is going to be, because, okay, I know I go on a lot of tangents. Hopefully you haven't lost you at this point. But when it comes to the, posts on Instagram and all of this, when we have the platform, right, those posts are just a way to kind of get people interested in the platform at the end of the day. That's kind of how we phrased a lot of the things. But for example, with the posts now, the shift will be much more focused on get people looking at some of our education, be like, oh, I want to learn more from them, and then go into the Discord. And I think the Discord will actually be quite a pivotal thing for us as far as how we're going to show our market fit. Because when you are building something like education, unless we build a school and say, oh, we have 300 people signed up to attend to our physical building and go to our sessions, doing that digitally is literally a Discord community, right? Having engaged people on Discord is kind of a very easy way to measure this. So that's what I was kind of thinking. Now, parts of this is also going to be, we're going to get a lot more feedback from users. We're going to be able to interact with people a lot more in doing a lot more user interviews, getting a lot more specifics. And I think it's also going to really help with refining the platform as we're building it, as we're continuing developing it, expanding it, all this shit, right? So this means, if we were to do this, and I do think it would be a good idea to do it this way. I spoke to Sarah; she kind of agrees as well. So unless all the rest of you disagree, I would say we would probably go ahead with this. the big thing would be that we test education by doing it. And how can we do it now is actually do stuff through Discord. And we are actually, another thing, I'm literally looking at my notes here on the other screen, which are, or like Sarah was just adding a bunch of stuff as far as about kind of Discord and how we can use that specifically, get that engagement, do that education through there. And we'll have a bunch more discussions on that as well. So really, just to kind of summarize everything we've gone through, okay, I'm not going to zoom out that much. But one of the big pieces of feedback that we got was that, actually, let me use the pointer, that right now, we're the way we're pitching, the way we focus on things is on the platform, on the education to brokerage pipeline, because that's how we do revenue. That's the product. And that's something that is kind of a technical MVP, which is right here, right? That's the technical platform, is the technical MVP. But for startup, that's not how things work. That's not how we can prove our market fit unless we can somehow already get everything we need to have a fully done brokerage. And then that's how we're going to start proving our market fit. And because of the fact that, people don't want to invest in something where they're like, ooh, is this actually going to definitely work? We're going to have so one thing I want to clarify, it wasn't like anybody said like, oh, it's absolutely impossible to raise the way you're trying to, but they said that's just really not kind of the best way to go about it, because the norms of how to do it are different with startups. And the way to really do kind of focus in, the thing to focus on your pre-seed round is just showing market fit in any way possible. And when you're showing market fit, how you go about it is you can do it with a product, which would have been the platform, or you can just do it by providing that solution in the absolute most bare bones way that you can. And for us, what that would mean is Discord, do sessions there, build out a community, have people interact, provide that education, ramp up more on podcasts, have the Instagram and Facebook and all this work more of as a pipeline into the Discord, instead of planning to have it as a pipeline into the actual platform, so we can get start accumulating users and people that we can talk to and get feedback from right away. And that is kind of that fundamental shift. I think that was a big mistake that I made from the past businesses, and that's what really kind of that today's update around the feedback is about. So I hope this made sense, because I do feel like there were parts where I was not super clear, but hopefully I clarified them enough to where this makes sense. If you have any questions, ask them in the thread on Slack where you got this. I'm not sure if it's going to actually let me send this full recording, or if I'm going to have to upload it to YouTube and then resend it or whatever. But that is kind of that core difference. That's probably the biggest piece of feedback that we got from all the people that I ended up speaking to. So with that, I'm looking forward to reading all your feedback and talking to you more about this. As soon as I get any of the messages, I'll try to be responsive, but particularly just kind of a reminder, there'll be a bunch of these over the next week. And then on Sunday is when I would really like to kind of have a discussion on this. But that doesn't mean don't wait to kind of give your feedback until Sunday. Put it on Slack and in the thread right away. I would like to hear from all of you, even if you agree, even if you disagree, even if you're going to say like, oh, Allison, you're an absolute idiot. What you just said makes no sense. Put it in there. I honestly would be much happier if every single message was, Allison, you're a fucking idiot. What you said is the dumbest thing, and we should never do that. And you should never, explain anything because it also made no sense. Then if you got no replies, because I really want to kind of hear kind of what you guys are thinking, especially since, all of you that are here, except those that still haven't kind of let us know whether they want to stay or not, have decided to stay despite this. Because honestly, I think this is kind of that biggest fuck up that we have at Fair at this point, because this is a fundamental difference in what we will focus on early on. And it is most likely, based off all the feedback and kind of my understanding of it and talking about it to people, the biggest reason why we still haven't raised. Because we were in our pitching and all that, I was always really focused on the platform, because I looked at that as the solution, as opposed to going even more, even more abstract because realistically, right, some investors are not going to be like, yes, this super technical platform, I exactly understand it, this is perfect. Right? We're not pitching a hedge fund on their new trading system where they're all experts in this, and we can show them performance data of how this beats the market. We're targeting retail investors. We're aiming to help the average person, right? We want the average person in Europe and eventually across the world to be able to use our education so they can actually learn finance, because honestly, the shit out there is garbage. And like, specifically today, I was like going across some stuff, was like talking to some people who are just starting to learn, and they were showing me some of the stuff. Plus, I ended up going through a bunch of things on Twitter and YouTube as I was looking into different things, and it kind of annoyed me, which is probably why I'm complaining about this a little bit more than I should. So that is, that is what we're looking to really solve. It's have a proper education that people can actually use, because clearly there's nothing decent out there, and then have an ethical brokerage so people can actually use what they've learned to not just make a little bit more money, which is great, right? Of course, there's a great benefit there, but also so they can actually use the power or the leverage that investing, or like owning stocks in a company gives them, right? Buying a stock is ownership of the business. And now I'm going on a completely different tangent, but fuck it, ADHD, let's go, right? Having ownership in a business should have some control. And you see so many people, because this isn't something that they can educate about, informed about, that access isn't there, they just kind of buy into what makes money. And that's fine. If that's all they care about, yeah, more power to them. If they make more money, that's their choice. But a lot of people care about the impact, right? Owning stocks in a company means you have some amount of control, right? Yeah, you might own 20 shares, which might be 0.00001% of the entire, number of shares issued. But that still is a little bit of control. And if a lot of people are upset about something that a company's doing, they can use those votes to make changes. So it's how BlackRock and all these firms that have like big holdings in businesses have so much power, right? They don't own the entire business, but they own a substantial amount of voting power. And that's how they make changes. And the same thing for people. Plus, they get to make a little bit of money, and they could all do this with a decent education. And that's what we're basically solving. And then we're using the brokerage to make revenue, provide that information, help with that. So I don't know how I got onto this tangent, but at its core, refocusing onto having our first goal be prove market fit, have that early fundraising and all of that, and everything else we'll talk about over the rest of the week, and how to Discord be focused on market fit is basically setting market fit as that main goal, as that North Star of what do we need to do next, right? We need to prove market fit. That's a pivotal difference from the previous goal of our main goal is to get the platform out and to show market fit. We can do that with the platform. We can do that with the Discord. And we'll talk about all the rest of that over the coming week and on Sunday. And I'm sure we'll talk about that plenty in the future. Anyway, hope you have an interesting day. Thank you for watching this. Remember, Slack, thread, reply. I really want to hear what you think. Bye.